everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Roundtable Pod Racers. I'm here with Jonna.
Hi.
I'm so excited that you're here with me. We're going to be talking about animation in Star Wars, which I feel we both love it. I know you're a huge fan, so I thought this was perfect to come and do an episode because there's been so much love for the animation lately. I was seeing a tweet saying that there's a huge watch over Clone Wars and makes my heart so happy because it's like, now you understand.
Yeah. Now you know
Oh,
what we've been talking about for the past 10 years.
I'm not crazy. You need to love Ahsoka. So yeah, I thought it was a good point to kind of just talk about the animation, and I'm here with a person that has even interviewed Filoni. So I thought Jonah's the perfect person. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to talk with you. Everything animation.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I love talking about animation, especially with other people who are big animation fans as well, like you.
Yeah. So I wanted our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So I'm gonna do a couple questions. What's your first memory of Star Wars?
My first memory of Star Wars, it's funny because apparently my mom told me that she took me to a screening of The Empire Strikes Back. And I'm like, I wasn't even born when that movie came out. What are you talking about? But she said that they had re-released them. I'm like, okay, I believe you.
Nice.
But my first memory, I remember sitting in my living room in one of my old apartments, and I was looking at that old TV screen, like the big ones, the big bulky ones. And I remember staring at the screen and seeing the trash compactor scene in A New Hope. And I remember feeling like this intense, like, oh my God, what's going to happen to them? Are they going to get squished like pancakes? What's going to happen? And then I also remember feeling this, oh my gosh, Luke Skywalker looks so hot with that wet look that he has. And so, yeah, there were a lot of different feelings going on in my head. But that was the scene that really stands out to me as like one of my first memories of Star Wars.
Nice. Yeah, that's an intense, especially when you're little, you don't understand. Like, they're in a trash compactor.
What's
Yeah.
going on? But at the same time, I'm like, oh, he's cute. I like this.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And what about the first animation memory that you have? Was it Clone Wars?
So it was definitely Clone Wars because I had just graduated from college, and this was summer 2008. So it's funny because one of my the one of the speeches given to me at college when I was graduating was, this is going to be a rough summer for you guys because it's the summer 2008, the recession and all that stuff. So I thought, oh wow, that's a great way to go into the real world. So I was kind of, on the down because of real life things. And then all of a sudden I see this ad or something about Ahsoka and this trailer. And I thought, oh my gosh, who is this? What is this animated Star Wars? Who is this animated person meant to be the Jedi apprentice of Anakin? And I thought, oh my gosh, this looks really cool. I gotta go watch this. So, I patiently waited until August came around. And then that's when I watched the movie in theaters. And I'm like, oh, this is the best thing ever.
Oh, that's awesome. You were able to go watch it in theaters.
Yeah. And I was the only one, maybe like 4 other people were in the same theater as me, because it was during the day. I decided to go, let me just go by myself since nobody else wants to come with me.
Yeah.
And so I went to the theater and there was just a few other people. So there weren't that many people that went to watch it, at least when I went to my theater.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I wasn't able to watch it in theaters because I caught it a little bit later, but that's so awesome. So definitely favorite character. I think I know, but it is it in general that he's your favorite character or just like animation?
So in general, I really love, there's three characters that I have in like my top one spot that kind of like they kind of sit adjacent to each other because they can't be 2, 3 like silver, gold. No, they need to sit
It's
next to each other. And those three characters are Ahsoka, definitely, Rex, because he's the love of my life, and then and Ezra from Star Wars Rebels. So like those three characters are like my trifecta, the three people that I look to for guidance and
yeah.
for, because they're just so amazing. But yeah, Captain Rex was my first love.
I
And it's
it's
just like I
beautiful.
fell in love with him in that movie, and I just
Yeah, I mean, they did such a great job, and we'll talk about it. Kind of making us love the clones. When I never expected that after watching, prequels or like anything from before, and it's so yeah. I love Rex. um, what would be your dreams Rebel sequel? Would it look like? I know we got the news from Ahsoka, and it's in that timeline, so yeah.
Yeah, so my dreams for a sequel, it's funny because this is the danger of leaving things open-ended, Dave Filoni. I'm talking to you directly now, because now we've all collectively assumed where this story is going. And we can all kind of agree that Ezra, Thrawn are somewhere in the outer regions, in the unknown regions. And so Ezra's there to possibly help with Thrawn and his people, and maybe help with whatever they're being attacked by. I don't know. But that's kind of like the idea that we were all going for. And now Filoni threw us this curveball, and I'm just like, whoa, where are you coming out with these with these stories now? Because now who knows what really is going on out there with Ezra. And I like to think that the Ahsoka series is a lead up to that, and not necessarily going to touch on that. So
Okay.
so I like to think that the sequel will still be in animated form, because I would prefer it to be that way. And the Ahsoka show would be more about her journey to that, the white Ahsoka that we see in Rebels.
Yeah, the Gandalf Ahsoka.
Yeah, Gandalf
Yes, I
Ahsoka.
I, I thought the same way because I was talking to my husband and I was like, but I still want the animated versions of the Rebel sequels.
Yeah.
Like it's different, and what they can do, it's also so much more, especially with all the creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I get you.
Yeah, we
So
were eye to eye on this when it
yeah.
comes to animation. You can do so much more with that world. Because in live action, as much as you can play around in the volume and create things practically and CG wise, it won't capture the charm and magic that you have in animation. At least personally, that's how I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's definitely not the same. You can't create lone wolves the same.
Oh
So
no!
I'm like, how would you need to bring them back?
Exactly.
But yeah, definitely. And well, talking about Filoni, I know you had the opportunity to do that press conference and interviewing. How was that like? I mean, I would
So
be like nervous.
I was incredibly nervous. I guess I hit it well, but I hope I hit it
No,
well.
you did, you did. I heard it. I loved it. I was like, oh my God, look, it's Jonah. It was so exciting.
Yeah, because I remember that early that year, 2018, I want to say that's when
Hmm.
Rebels ended. Earlier that year, because I know that they do these screenings in Lucasfilm, and I thought, man, I just want to attend one of those things before the series ends, because this series means so much to me. I gotta shoot my shot. So I went ahead and I emailed and I said, hey, is there any way that I can, just like stand in the back or something? And just like
I'll hold
participate in
something.
this. I know, I get just anything. And they were like, we would like you to come, and do you want to interview Dave Filoni on the stage? And I thought, what? I I was just asking if I could be in the audience. But it was just so surprising to me. And I'm so thankful for that experience because it was really eye-opening. And I thought, oh man, maybe if I do this more often, I can actually be really good at it and enjoy it instead of
Yeah.
being like a nervous wreck. But I just really loved being part of that experience, not only as an audience member because I got to sit with everyone else to watch the episodes, but then to like get up from my seat and then walk around and be like, hey everyone, so we're going to talk with Dave Filoni. So yeah, it's just to look back on it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that actually happened. And like I said, I'm really thankful that it did because um I in 2008 I had no idea who Dave was. And then, this movie came out and I thought, wow, this Dave Filoni guy is actually really good at what he does. And then 10 years later, literally 10 years, I'm on the stage with the guy who created that movie and who gave me something to look forward to during a summer when I just didn't know what to do with myself after college. So I was just, in a way, I was just like, man, thank you so much for giving me something to aspire to and just fall in love with. And I can't help but stay grateful over and over again.
Yeah, and I think you and I share a lot of the same opinion. For me, Clone Wars revived that love for Star
Yes.
Wars. We had the movies, and I even love the prequels, but watching Clone Wars and then watching Ahsoka, I was like, what is this? And I need more. And I had moved to the States, and I was in New York, and then moved to New Jersey, and I was like, I was so bored. I didn't have anything to like really look. I didn't know anybody. My English wasn't that good.
Mm-hmm.
So Clone Wars for me was like, oh, I'm gonna sit down and kind of like just forget about everything and
Yeah.
emerge in this world. And then you get so many characters, and I was like, why can't the movies be like this? But also like, but I still want to keep it just animation. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's awesome. And now we look forward to seeing more animations. I know that they're releasing some um like little films, and one of them was the Japanese anime aesthetic. Are you
Yeah.
looking forward to that?
Yeah, that's actually really different. And I think a lot of people would have wanted to see more Japanese style animation earlier on. But I like that they're experimenting now and trying to find how to tell stories in different styles. So I appreciate that they're pushing the envelope and giving us something new like this. And I can't wait to see it because I'm sure it's going to be received very well by the audience. So here's hoping that they might see that and then expand on more stories with that kind of style, because who doesn't love a good anime?
Yes, and we can imagine seeing lightsaber action with anime.
Oh,
That's
epic.
exactly the only thing we're missing in Star Wars. Okay. Well, we're talking about animation, and I kind of wanted to do like a little background of where it all came from, and we'll talk more about it. But yeah, the first animation, then I looked it up because I was like, oh, which one's the first one? So it came out in 1985, and I was looking at some YouTube videos, and it's funny to see how animation has progressed, because there were the Ewoks and the Star Wars Droid Adventure Hour. They're so cute. It reminded me kind of like of Winnie Pooh. Like they
Yeah.
look so, little one, but it was crazy to see kind of like George Lucas was always interested in going that route and
Yeah.
trying to figure out, because at the end of the day he was trying to do this for the kids, and then he went up and tried to help with Disney and Pixar, and even I don't know if you've been able to watch like Pixar documentaries and George Lucas comes out and he was like helping with Toy Story, and I was like, wait, what? But it's really cool to see that happened. And then in 2003 we get the micro series of Clone Wars. Were you able to watch that?
Yeah, the Clone Wars macro series, I remember watching bits of it because it was odd the way that they dropped it. You just had to be there because otherwise you would miss it. Because it
Not
was just
like right
like a
now.
minute or, yeah, exactly. It's like a minute or two, and they would put it in between episodes of something else. I forgot what it was, but I would catch one every once in a while. And I remember seeing one with Mace Windu just dodging everything. I'm like, what is this? But it was interesting because at that point in time, I had just watched the prequels, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember these people. And so I thought they were going to do something more with it. And it wasn't until Clone Wars came out that I thought, oh, okay, I see what they were doing.
Yeah, for me it was Asajj
Yeah.
Ventress. I was seeing her and I was like, whoa, she looks awesome. But like you said, I couldn't catch anything. So I was like, is this a commercial? Or like, it was so fast. I didn't know what was going on. So,
Exactly.
but I thought it was very interesting. And for me, it like at the moment it didn't look so Star Wars. So I know it wasn't the same creators and everything, but I was like, okay, I just need to know more about Ventress. She looks super cool, and it was like a Sith girl. So yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but then you get the theatrical version of Clone Wars. So I know you mentioned it before. That was kind of like the first into animations that you had. Is that something that after wanted you to have more of the animation? How did you go from like watching the movies to like, okay, now we have an animated show?
Yeah, because I think the movie came out that August 2008, and the show was in October. And I remember seeing commercials for it in Cartoon Network, and I thought, oh my gosh, because at the time I wasn't really involved with the fandom, and there was obviously a big fandom at that time, and they would have like Star Wars fan sites and whatnot. Social media wasn't that big at that time, so Twitter hadn't even been a thing. So all this stuff was just came to me via the television. So I was just like, oh snap, they're making a series now, what's going on? And at the time I didn't know that they were connected, in that this movie was originally going to be part of the series, and it became the movie, and so there was a whole lot that was going on production wise. And so I was just excited that we were getting a new show, because as a kid, I grew up with a lot of cartoons, like the Gummy Bears and Little Mermaid, and I forget what else, DuckTales. But I was a huge animation kid. Like this is how I learned to think and whatnot, by watching TV. So I was just like totally on board with an animated version of Star Wars, because as much as I loved the movies, I wasn't really all that into it, to the point where I got with the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars really expanded this world in a way that I was just like, wow, I actually love this place. Can I stay here?
Exactly. And I feel obviously nowadays it's changing. But before, I remember they would ask me like, oh, who's your favorite character? And I would say Ahsoka, and they're like, but that's not the movies. And I'm like, yeah, but that's how I started loving and kind of getting into the fandom, is because of Clone Wars. So for me, it was just like, and I like you grow up watching a lot of animation. I love watching Cartoon Network. And it's funny because I always tell people that my mom made me and my brother nerds, because she would make us watch TV in English in Colombia. And it's like, you need to get used to it. We went to an American school, so I was like, oh, why? Like, let me watch things in Spanish. And then it was like, oh wait, I really like this.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's funny because my mom's motivation was, I just need you to be entertained by something. Just watch the TV while I go do stuff in the kitchen.
And it's also, I mean, I'm a huge fan of your podcast, and your mom is pretty awesome. And
Oh,
you were
thank
able
you.
to connect and communicate that with my mom. My mom hasn't even watched any Star Wars movie, which me and my brother are always like, we need to sit her down and watch it. Because I told her, you made me like all of this, and you don't even know what I'm talking about. She knows certain words, but yeah, no, that's pretty funny. But
You just gotta put Rogue One in
that's what I
Spanish,
tell
where
her.
Diego Luna speaks his own role. I love that. So yeah, just
Oh
put it in Spanish
yes.
and she'll love it.
And that's what I told her. I was so excited. Rogue One is like on top there for my list. And I told her, look, mom, there's a person that speaks English kind of like me with an accent, so you need to watch this movie. I love Diego Luna. I'm so
So good.
excited that he's getting his own show.
I know. I'm so happy for him. I just hope that at one point he meets Jabba the Hutt. Like, it needs to happen.
Right?
Oh yeah, or Yava, as he says it. Yava.
Yeah. It's so awesome. But going back to Clone Wars, we both love Ahsoka, but we were introduced to this character that so many people were just like, that's not happening compared to now. But they were like, what is going on? How does he have a Padawan? And we never like saw it in the prequels, like, and then the older viewers of like the old sequel, I mean the original trilogy, they were like, no, that's not a character. How did you see that happening? I know for me, I came in the fandom and I didn't know there was so many events like Star Wars Celebration until I moved here, and I had some friends that were like, you're such a huge Star Wars fan of Star Wars, you should do this. Then I was able to go to the one here, but were you able to see that, like, that difference of opinion with Ahsoka?
I did once I started getting on social media, because it was still a little bit present at that point in time, where people were just not into her whole kind of attitude. She's snippy. That's why they call her Snips. So they were not into it. They were not into the whole R2-y thing. I'm like, it's just a nickname. Get over it. But yeah, the idea that, and it goes back to this thing that I see often with adults. You know, they have a trouble connecting with cartoons, and it's kind of like, well, weren't you a kid once? I'm sure you watched cartoons as a kid. And it's this mentality that once you become an adult, you let go of this, you know, quote unquote childish things. And that shouldn't really be the case, because animation is for everyone. There could be animated cartoons, like, for example, Star Trek Lower Decks, that's aimed for an older audience, but it's still a cartoon. And just because it's in that format doesn't mean that, oh, I need to dismiss it because I'm an adult. Like, they act like they're high and mighty because
Yes.
you know, they're an adult, and like, that shouldn't really be the case. And you know, just remember when you were a kid, you know, this is a great way to introduce people to Star Wars. Like, for us, for example, we were really brought into this world because of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And so yeah, Ahsoka was the one thing that I latched onto, because I thought, this girl is going through a journey that I feel kind of it feels relatable, because here I am trying to look for a job in the real world, and here she is trying to defend herself from all these big bad guys. And it's just like, I felt something with her, and it's stuck with me ever since.
Yeah, and she's so passionate. That's something that I definitely could relate to, and the fact that she spoke her mind, no matter, like, she knew that she might have gotten in trouble, but it was like, okay, I'm still gonna do this. It felt so, like you said, relatable, and
Mm-hmm.
it opened so many doors to what the animation in Clone Wars could bring, because they ask me all the time, oh, why do you watch this? And I'm like, well, you guys watch Family Guy and Rick and Morty, and those are adult shows, and you still enjoy it. That's the same thing for me. I could watch Clone Wars and Rebels every day, kind of in the background, and I enjoyed it more than rewatching some of the movies.
Yeah,
So
same.
yeah, so it's crazy because then it became such a phenomenon, right? So we went starting with this little episodes to after there's more and more people kind of joining in the fandom. And I love what George Lucas said in his quote was like, we now have 3 generations of Star Wars fans, and some of these kids have never seen any of the films. All they know is Clone Wars. And I was like, I wasn't there where I only knew Clone Wars because I had watched all episodes 1 through 6, but I was like, yeah, but I love what they're doing. And for me, I work with a lot of special needs kids, and that's the way I can introduce them, or they've been introduced to Star Wars. And for them, one of my kids last week was like, oh, your favorite character came out in The Mandalorian. And it's like awesome that he's saying that about Ahsoka. And I was like, yeah. And I'm able to even like use some of the videos when I'm doing like some therapy sessions. But Clone Wars just changed the game. It became so personal with the clones, right? We love Captain Rex, and Filoni and George Lucas did something that none of the movies did, which was humanize the clones.
Yes.
That was just eye-opening, because we were looking at the prequels and we saw Jango Fett, and then we saw the army of clones, and then that's it. And now we have like stories and arcs of Rex and Fives and Echo, and it's just like, what? You guys have feelings? You guys have names? What is this? Like, what did you think about that?
I thought that was such a smart move, because what a great way to expand the world and make you think about what it is that you're watching. Because a lot of the time we just go into these things and we're like, oh, cool, pew pew, and lightsabers and whatnot. But you really got to sit down and think about what it is these characters are experiencing. You have an army that was bred for war, and the Jedi, who are the peacekeepers of this universe, are using them willingly. So it's like, whoa, there's a lot of moral, ethic things happening here that you can extrapolate from and then apply in your own life. So I thought that was a brilliant way to, a brilliant approach in this series. And of course, I mean, from a more surface point of view, I mean, it gave a lot of people cosplaying. Like, oh my god, I want to cosplay as this trooper or that trooper. And I thought, what a way to diversify the fandom by, not everyone wants to be a Jedi. And I think it's really cool when I see people like the clone troopers, or fans dressed as clone troopers at charity events. Like, that's really neat.
Yes, it's not like the normal stormtroopers.
Yeah,
like, oh, you
yeah.
don't even know who it is. But then it's cool. And I remember for me, I went to an event and I saw someone cosplay Captain Rex. And it was the first time I actually see a cosplay Captain Rex. I think that person probably thought I was so weird, because I was like, oh my god, this is so incredible. But he was so excited that I knew who he was, because most of the people in the event and I was like, oh yeah. But I thought it was genius that they did that I love that even in the animations. And it's kind of like in the episode of The Believer with the Mandalorian, they kind of make us think of like, not everything is black and white, and there could be good and bad from both sides. And Clone Wars did that so much, and with the clones, and kind of like with the war, and it gives a more story from Anakin, because I feel like with the prequels we didn't get to see like why Anakin chose that route to become Vader. Right. If you watch the whole Clone Wars, it's like, oh, well, it makes a lot of sense. For me, I feel like if Ahsoka wouldn't have left, he wouldn't have become Vader. And even like including that little extra part there was just like, it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah, I really love how it's not just like because I love cartoons that just make me laugh. Like, it's just there to make me laugh, nothing else. But I also love cartoons that really just tap into my heartstrings and emotions, and just Oh man, I can't believe I cried 5 hours over, over that episode kind of way. But yeah, I really appreciate that this series goes there and isn't afraid to go there.
Exactly. What would you say it's like? I know it's hard to decide like one favorite episode, but what is one episode that you're like, okay, I need to rewatch it? Well, what could be a good like a rewatch episode for you?
Oh man, that's Clone Wars. Clone Wars is hard because of the way that it approached the story, because there's different arcs, so in a way they're like all different little movies within each season. But the one episode I remember going back to just because it was so fun was the Deserter with
Ooh,
Rex and Cut LaQuaine. I thought,
yes.
wow. And see, that's another episode where on the surface it's just really cool that Rex is on this farm or whatever. But you know, deeper, there's a story there about Cut LaQuaine who left, who abandoned the army. And I love it when Clone Wars presents little things that you just didn't think about before. Like there have to have been clones that have deserted because they saw that they have a life worth living and that they didn't want to be in this war. They weren't asked to be part of this. So I really appreciate that perspective. And now every once in a while I'm like, man, what's Cut LaQuaine up to?
And he was so hot. How do they make
He
anime?
was.
I'm like, how do you guys do this? Or like make us fall in love with Captain Rex?
They just do such a great job with diversifying the clone and individualizing them and just making them like, you know, that they're the same person visually supposed to be, but at the same time they're just giving so many individual characteristics where you're like, wow, they're like different people. And I love that about this series.
Yeah, and it also makes you value Bradley D. Williams, the voice actor, much
Oh
more. Like, how
yeah.
did you make the same voice sound and look different?
Yeah.
Because it's like, how, first of all, how are you recording that? Because I would go crazy. But it's like, okay, when Rex is talking, you hear him more like he's Captain Rex, and then you hear Echo and Fives, and it's so talented to see
Yeah.
them all doing that. And then would you ever imagine that then we have Darth Maul coming back? How was that?
Darth Maul, that was just okay. So I have a whole story with Darth Maul
Go for
because
it.
in the Phantom Menace, I thought, wow, this character is super cool. I was just visually in love with this character. I even dressed up as him for Halloween. I actually have
That's
a
awesome.
photo with I'm wearing a Backstreet Boys t-shirt and a Darth Maul face. It's
Nice.
just so funny to look back on. But the fact that Maul just died at the end, I thought, where goes that character? And I think it just started this whole, you know, once we see him again in Clone Wars, it's like, oh, so in Star Wars people aren't dead. Is that what you're trying to tell me? And I get that feeling often, every once in a while. I'm like, so that person's not dead apparently, because you've shown in the past that they can come back. So yeah, Maul, I have a love and hate relationship, because then in Rebels, he tries to mess with Ezra. And I'm like, no, see, you have to understand, Ezra is my number one favorite character. You can't mess with him and be on the good list. No, I have to put you on the naughty list now. And I just like, I love the guy because he really messes with you, because you're like, am I actually rooting for you now? I don't understand. But then you just want to hate him because he's just so frustrating sometimes.
Definitely. And I feel like also there was a switch in Clone Wars when he came in,
Yes.
because it turned so dark.
Yeah.
That episode for me, the first time I watched it, it was like so creepy. I was like, how do you have spider legs? Like, where are you coming from? Plus, we had seen before the Night Sisters episode with his brother. And I was just like, whoa, where are you guys going with this? Because I know that I have a lot of parents in my job that they know I love Star Wars, and they're like, oh, we know there's cartoons. Do you recommend it? And I was like, yeah, except some episodes, because I
Yeah.
don't think all the kids that are little will be able to understand that.
Mm.
But I love what they did, because I love that Clone Wars doesn't have like just a one theme. It goes from like, oh, I'm gonna go funny for the kids and do like some droid episodes, and then I'm gonna be like, okay, war with some clones, and then creepy with Darth Maul, and then you're gonna the romance with with Padme and Anakin, and then it's like, oh, the Mandalorian. So it kind of like, it's a roller coaster of
Yeah.
themes and
Yeah.
emotions that this show does. But I never thought I was gonna see Maul coming back to like an animated way.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, his story is so crazy. He's just been a guy that he's been looking for that relationship that sadly he got with Obi-Wan at the end. Like it was just so crazy. But I was like, whoa, I never expected that. But it also shows you what they are able to do with animation that they wouldn't be able to do in live action. We couldn't have
Yeah.
those crazy spider
Better
legs
legs.
looking so good.
They were gonna be CG'd, so why not go the animation route where you can actually like make the whole world more believable. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then his appearance, it's funny because then I go watch Solo, and I go at a really odd time, so it's just me and this other person on the other end, and like two other people down a few rows. So we're watching the movie, and then at the very end, I hear Sam Witwer's voice, and I'm like, no, no. And then, it pans over to him, and I just start laughing. I laugh hysterically. I'm like, dude, I just watched you die a year ago, and here you are back again. Like, how is this even possible?
Moz is gonna be that character that pops out
Yeah.
everywhere. Like the ghost.
Like I will, and it's funny because I won't be surprised if he shows up in the Bad Batch because he's in operation at that time. So
That's
it's just like,
true.
there he goes again, yet again, haunting my dreams.
He's always gonna. And so I love Sam Witwer. What he did with Maul is also, again, personalizing, humanizing this
Yes.
character. Because I watched The Phantom Menace, and one of the things I love about Star Wars is the fighting and the lightsaber fighting. I do lightsaber choreography, so when I saw his fighting, I was like, oh my god, I want to fight like him. And then I was like, he died. Well,
Yeah.
and then seeing it again in the Clone Wars, but we didn't get to see him talk or anything, and it's just like so sad. He's the character that I feel for, that I just want to like, come here, you need a hug. But then it's
But
like,
also let me
really,
slap you. But
yeah.
also let me slap you.
But also like, you were doing so good, and then went down.
I know. Yeah. Sam Witwer, I feel like that man deserves an award for the amount of like energy he puts into that character, and just it's just phenomenal what he's able to do, and what emotion he's able to convey in any given moment. And I'm always happy when he's attached to Star Wars, because I just know that whatever it is, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And then that brings me to another point where we watch the animation, we love the animation, and they came with different voice actors. Because when I started watching Clone Wars, I was like, well, that doesn't sound like Hayden Christensen, but I love his voice, and for me, it's Anakin. Like, for me, Anakin is Clone Wars Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see these characters, and then we have Ashley. And seeing her journey through Star Wars was so inspiring for me. And like, she has done so much for the fandom. And then we have her universe like explode. And I'm like, wait, I don't have to buy any more like men clothes and small, but like, what is this? So that's again some like a testimony what that show gave us, that now we have someone like Ashley become and create so much for the fandom, right?
Right. Yeah. Ashley has been such a big reason why I'm still a huge fan. I mean, in addition to all the animated shows, she just brings so much warmth to Star Wars and outside of Star Wars that you can't help but support her in any endeavor that she goes on. I really admire her dedication to Ahsoka. Like, that is just something that every fan wants to see, when it comes to their favorite character and the person who portrays or voices their favorite character. Like, that saying, you never want to meet your heroes. She's one of those heroes that you want to meet because she actually is Ahsoka. She lives the Ahsoka life by
Yes.
helping others, and I just admire that so much. And yeah, I give her props for having to deal with all those hate, mean comments early on, but still, like, just going through them and shining bright, like a diamond.
Yeah. She really is Ahsoka. I also had the pleasure of meeting her, and I was like, wow, like you're real and you're
Yeah.
you. And that's very different because we sometimes go to conventions and we get a chance to like really quickly take a picture with someone that we really admire. But her, she just brings so much like shine, and like it's like you're really talking to Ahsoka, so you're like, what is going on? That's how I felt when I went to her book signing. I was like, that's crazy because I feel like I'm talking to Ahsoka, but I'm
Yeah.
also talking to Ashley. She's awesome.
Mhm.
But then we have no more animation. Then Clone Wars was canceled, and
Yeah,
our
sad
hearts were broken.
times. Yeah, I remember mailing Lucasfilm like, no, please. I wonder, I hope I was respectful. I'm pretty sure I was because I always am. But sometimes, when you let your emotions get to you, you might say things that you're like, oh man, why would I say something like
You
that?
become
But
Maul.
yeah, you become Maul. So I'm hoping I sounded sane in my letter. I'm pretty sure I did. But then, everyone got this, everyone who wrote ended up getting like this generic letter, but which was still cool because it's like Lucasfilm. You're like, whoa, they actually mailed me back. But I got this letter and I still have it, and it's just like, oh, they're looking ahead at the future and whatnot. And I remember when Clone Wars came back this year, hard to believe it's this year that it came back for the final episodes. I remember looking back at that letter and going, wow, 2000, what was it, 2014, 13, Jonah would not have believed. 2012, Jonah would
Yeah.
not have believed what's going on right now.
Yeah, that was the same for me. I was like, wait, but I need to know what happened to Ahsoka. Like, why are you doing this to me? But and it's not like now that you would get to rewatch the show. I was so excited that they have to put it on Netflix because I was rewatching
Right.
everything. I needed more and more. And then you hear George Lucas is retiring, and you're like, well, what's gonna happen? And then in 2014, we got the beautiful Star Wars Rebels. What was your first memory that you have of that?
Oh, Star Wars Rebels. It's just like it has such a warm place in my heart. But the first memory I have of that, I want to say it was one of those, it was the announcement for sure, and I thought, oh, okay, this is interesting. So they're bringing us something new. So it's not like, I think one of my fears is that Lucasfilm animation will start to wind down until they don't make any animation at all. That's like my one fear.
Yes.
And like, I need them to continue because, and I was very honest on Twitter recently, and I said, if Lucasfilm Animation ever stops making Star Wars, that's it for Star Wars for me, because Star Wars to me is those animated shows. And I forgot where I was going with all of that, but
The Rebels.
but my first Rebels memory, I want to say it was also those character videos, or the casting. Actually, I remember I think it was the Hollywood Reporter or Variety, one of those places, ended up putting like a cast list of what characters were, or what the voice actors would be. And I remember seeing Freddie Prinze Jr. and I thought, oh my God, a Puerto Rican descendant as the voice of a kid. I am so behind this. And and he was also a heartthrob when I was a teenager. So I thought, oh my God, Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. And then right after that, I remember the character videos, like the videos that were highlighting each character. Like Kanan was the cowboy Jedi, and Ezra was like this little Lothrat or whatever. And also just the little snippet, the little teasers that Dave Filoni would drop on his Facebook or Twitter with like the TIE fighters. And I thought, ooh, where's this going? But yeah, all that stuff. It's just I fondly look back on it because it's like Clone Wars like was a shadow over, was a cloud over our heads, but then it broke apart and there was a sun and beams of light, and I thought, oh man, this future looks exciting.
Yeah, at first I was like, wow, it looks different, but somehow I still like it because I remember watching one of the little I remember watching the animated short for Hera, and I was like, oh my God, a Twi'lek. Like that is like the main character. I've always thought they look so interested in the background, even in Clone Wars. And I was just like, she's a pilot? I was like, that's it. I'm in. Like, I don't care what the show does. But then I started watching it. This completely different animation than Clone Wars, but I still was hooked. And I know at the beginning, it's more for a younger audience, and that's what I talked to people, and I was like, no, but keep watching it. I loved it still, because I was like, wow, you have this timeline which is after Order 66, and you have like, I don't know who's gonna be remaining as a Jedi, and you have this little kid that is so lost and so cute, and then this band of rebels that are not like the part of the rebellion at that point. I was just like, and a Mando, and it's a girl, and I love all the girl power. I was like, what? And then Chopper came out, and I was like, that's it. I'm in. Like, Chopper's my favorite droid, and I was just like, oh, this is so awesome. I know you love Ezra. What is like that episode that you can rewatch from Rebels?
Oh gosh, see, Rebels is another hard one because even though it's more of a like the story is just a contained story, so it's not like it doesn't jump around from character to character like Clone Wars did. It's still hard for me to choose because there were so many good episodes that you're just like, wow, the writing, the animation, the music, it's just all that combination, all of those combinations just make it so A+ worthy. But an episode that I look to watch over and over again, trying to think. I usually go back to season 1 just because of everything we know that happens later on in season 4. So you just want to look back at the more innocent times. And that's what I love about the show, because even though it's aimed at a younger audience in season 1, it grows with you. Obviously as you grow older, things get tough. You experience life things, and that's what the show reflects as Ezra grows older. So the episode I like to look back on, it's either Legacy, because of course I like to cry, and and Path of the Jedi, because I also like to cry. But yeah, those two episodes with Ezra and his parents, it's so heartbreaking because you kind of, sometimes people dismiss Ezra as like some kid or whatever, but he actually has a lot of morals and values that were instilled in him by his parents. And I wish we could have seen more of his parents. And you kind of do in some of the novels. I forget what they're called now. Oh, I'm so bad at names. But I really like their influence over Ezra and how Ezra continues that legacy. Aha! that legacy
Nice.
moving forward. So yeah, I adore that episode, and the music for Ezra in that episode with the Lothal's moons are just, it breaks my heart, but in a good way. Like it makes me cry and just like get rid of all the bad energy.
Yes. And you brought up a good point, because I've talked to people about that, and then they're like, oh, but Ezra's annoying. I'm like, tell me a child that is not annoying at one point in their life, right? You
Exactly.
know, and this kid is by himself. Like, he's done much more than kids nowadays would do by themselves. So for me, I was just like, yes, he brings the comedy that Clone Wars always brings at points, you know?
Mhm.
And, but then, like Clone Wars, it becomes so dark, and at points it's like, whoa, where are you guys going? And then you bring characters, because I remember watching Rebels, and then all of a sudden Rogue One comes out, and we see Saw Gerrera, and then we have Saw Gerrera in Rebels. I love those connections that they
Yeah.
do to the movies, and every person that is obsessed in animations like us, we were like, what? How are you here? Like, this is so cool. And even like catching Chopper in the background, or the ghost. Every time I'm like looking for the ghost in any movie, I'm like,
Yeah.
where are you,
Where
Hera?
is it? Where is it? Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I love things like that. I like it when the live action world acknowledges the animation world and vice versa. I have a different take when it comes to putting characters in a live action setting for an extended period of time. I'm more of like, oh yeah, in an episode, sure, I'll allow it. But when it comes to an extended story, that's why I'm like a bit worried about the Ahsoka series. I'm just gonna throw that out there right now. But I'm excited that her story is going to be explored. I just wish it was in animation, because again, you can do so much more in animation. It could be so much more beautiful in animation, because when it comes to live action, sometimes I'm like, those Leku, those Montrals, that background. So it's like, like my eye just picks up on it and takes me out of it completely. Whereas in animation, I'm totally immersed in it, and I believe it all.
Yeah, like, yeah, they can always do so much, because even and it's harder with characters that are like Ahsoka or Hera,
Yeah,
that
for
they're
sure.
different species, you know. It's not as easy creating that and making it look so smoothly than in
Yeah.
animations. And in animations, you still get that complete story. You still have like the plot, and it just because it's an animation doesn't mean that you can't cry, because I cry with the last season of Rebels
Oh.
anytime. I was rewatching it yesterday. I was just like, oh my god, would I do this to myself?
Why? Yeah, you're such a masochist. Why are you doing that to yourself?
Or even season when they announced that the Clone Wars season 7 was gonna come out, I was in shock. I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And I was so excited, because nowadays we have way more like better technology. So I'm like, okay, it's gonna look good, because I remember when they released those unfinished episodes, and it's weird to see like unfinished episodes. I'm like, oh, that's what they look like
I
before.
love when they're like running and they're like moving that way. It's just so funny to see.
Yeah. But yeah, the same thing with Rebels. I remember I was in Star Wars Celebration when they announced Ahsoka lives.
Yeah.
I think you were there, right?
Yeah.
We were in the same room. We didn't know each other.
No, we didn't know each other at the time. That's so
How was
funny.
that? What do you remember about that?
Oh man. With the t-shirt, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because the t-shirt thing, it's funny because I didn't even see it at first. It clicked with me after, especially in talking with other people. But I was more in the Star Wars Rebels isn't coming back. It's done. It's finishing. And I'm just like, oh my God, you just crushed my soul, my heart. But yeah, and then the whole Ahsoka thing, and I thought, Dave, what are you trying to pull here? It's like, what are you trying to get at right now? And I just remember feeling like sad and excited and thrilled and depressed. And it's just like so many emotions all wrapped up in one.
Yeah, same here. And it's funny because when I think about that memory, I remember Amy's face. Like
Oh,
it
yeah.
pops out. I was like, I always remember that. And then seeing his shirt. And then it's funny because when they started showing the Rebels, like the episode, I
Mm.
remember it being in ashes. And that's how I felt. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
that, like, what is this? Like, and then I had my picture with Mark Hamill and I had to leave. I was like, damn it. And it's funny because my husband stayed and he watched the episode, and I think they showed World Between Worlds, was it?
Oh,
uh or something where Ahsoka came out. Well, I'm not sure which episode they showed, but he was bothering me for 6 months. Like, I saw something that you don't even know, and I don't even know what's happening because he
yeah.
wasn't watching Rebels.
It was the, if I remember correctly, it was the Heroes of Mandalore episodes. I think it was
Yes.
just like the first part. And obviously that first part ends in a cliffhanger because you're like, well, did they live? What's going on? And so yeah, part two, you had to wait for like 6 months to watch. And I thought they better not be doing what I think they're doing.
I know, because I watched the first, like, I remember watching part of it, and then the sound of the of the weapon, and that's
Oh
when I had
yeah.
to run. And I was like,
Oh.
I created my own cliffhanger. What is this?
You created your own cliffhanger on top of another cliffhanger.
Yes.
That's a cliffhangerception right there.
And then waiting, because I'm like, how is Ahsoka gonna come back? Because I love that episode of Ahsoka fighting Vader.
Oh, so
And
good.
that moment where she like rips part of her helmet and it's Matt Lanter saying Ahsoka, and then your heart, it's like
Oh.
stinks. And then coming back to something that has opened so many doors, because World Between Worlds has a lot of people that haven't even watched the episode talking about the what it could be, because
Yeah.
that's what I feel like with the Ahsoka logo. I gives me World of Worlds vibes. But having that ability to kind of like come back in the future or like go to the past, and that was just so
It
incredible.
it is such a really cool device because I never thought we'd see anything like it in Star Wars. That's more of like a Star Trek thing where it's like temporal wars and stuff of that nature. But in Star Wars, I just never imagined that we'd see something that has a way of showing you windows into the past and the future and the present. um I know some people like to use it, especially in fan fiction, for personal reasons,
Yeah.
for bringing back loved ones. But I personally don't use it for that, or I don't like to manipulate it because that's what a Sith would do.
Mhm.
Um, like Palpatine. But I do appreciate how Star Wars just literally blew our minds that day when that episode premiered, because I was just like, what? but yeah, I like I like its potential, especially in the Ahsoka series, because Ahsoka in the Ahsoka cards, the Topps cards that Dave Filoni created, it looks like when she enters that temple at the very end of that episode after being brought back by Ezra, she looks like she's going to go on another journey, possibly through another portal. I don't know whether that's just Dave playing around or whether that's something that's actually going to come to fruition. If it does, I hope that it's more of Ahsoka learning through this tool, because I imagine that's what it was used for in the past. It was more about uh learning what that's kind of weird to say, learning what is to come, because technically you shouldn't know what's to come. Maybe that's how prophecies are born. Maybe that's how they knew that there would be a chosen one.
Yeah, that
So
knowledge, because
yeah,
that's
so
what the wolf,
knowledge is power.
yeah, was saying to Ezra, like, you'll find the knowledge, um and that's beautiful.
Yeah,
And it's
so we'll
Canaan
see.
wolves.
We'll see.
It's so cool. Yeah, it opens a lot of portals
Yeah,
and what's gonna
essentially.
happen. But then we have the final episode and another cliffhanger. What was your reaction to that episode?
Gosh, I remember I first saw it again, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity. I remember seeing it in a theater with like half fans and half of the cast of Star Wars Rebels. So like right behind me was what's it, Clancy Brown
Oh my god,
and then Vanessa Marshall, and I thought, oh my god, this is
that's
really
awesome.
and I remember thinking, wow, this is really cool, and it's never gonna happen again. So gotta appreciate it right now. But anyway, I remember watching that episode, and for the Ezra part specifically, when he like yeets himself off of the page, literally, I thought, what? Like, I remember my expression was really like, what? I was just not happy within like those first 2 minutes. I want to say I was just not happy. I thought, oh my god, what the hell just happened? Because technically he's going into hyperspace and there's just no protection whatsoever from the coldness of space, and my mind just was like dying essentially, um after seeing this happen on the screen. And so after those 2 minutes, I was like, okay, I can accept this. I can accept whatever it is that Dave is implying. But that overall episode, Family Reunion and Farewell, I just thought it was so brilliant, the title Family Reunion, because you have all these different characters who Ezra's connected with over the series, and they just, one of the things I wish that would have happened, I wish Zaire would have been there from season 1, and a few other people who Ezra's met. But for what it was, I really loved how, the clones came back, Martin came back, and essentially was a family reunion where Ezra, you see the connections that Ezra's made have an impact on the future of Lothal, and I love that about that episode.
Yeah, I love that Ezra is a character that never saw anybody for like, okay, you're quote unquote light side or dark side. He
Right,
saw the
right.
good in everyone, in the even Hondo, because I love how they brought Hondo
Hondo,
again.
yeah. Oh, and then when Hondo says, "For that boy, there's
Yes.
nothing I would not do." I like that. Right now, I have tingles on my skin having just said that line, because it's such a beautiful sum of how Ezra has impacted Hondo, and how Hondo would most definitely do anything for that boy. And I just, so good.
Yes, and that's what I love about animation, because kids can enjoy it. Like, you can watch it with a 10-year-old and they're enjoying it, but you're enjoying it in another way.
Yeah, exactly. A deeper
And
level.
yeah, and we're watching the same thing, but it's like you get invested in so many characters. And for me, like, that moment where after Kanan dies and Chopper's holding Hera's hand, that kills me every single time, because now, and we didn't, well, there was always that and feel that the droids had feelings, and we had C-3PO and R2D2 kind of being funny, but Chopper is such a, like, crazy droid. He's so passionate. He'll speak his mind. But then his love for Hera, and I'm like, this little machine is like holding her hand so tightly. Like, yes, I'm here for you. That breaks my heart. But I remember watching that last, the episode where Ezra is gone. And I was just like, what just happened? And like, it didn't give you time to mourn. It wasn't like Ahsoka going down the stairs, leaving the Jedi Temple, or like even afterwards. It was just like that fast. And you're like, I don't know what to think. And then after kind of like giving you that time to mourn the series with the other 2 episodes, Family Reunion and Farewell, I was just like, wow, that was just so beautiful. I never thought animation could get like this and convey so emotion and make it so personal to
Mm-hmm.
like love characters, even like Hondo, that was so annoying at first in Clone Wars. It was like, it's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and it's the power of animation. I love how it's able to instill so many emotions in you and pull them so many emotions out of you. So yeah, I just love animation for that.
Yeah, Filoni is such a genius, and
Oh
crew,
yeah.
like the voice acting, everything, everybody. It's just what they've done. And we then Rebels finished and we have Resistance. Did you watch that one too?
Oh yeah. Oh, and speaking of Rebels, just very briefly,
Yeah.
like before, like that. Actually, it happened right when Rebels was airing, but like I wanted to briefly touch on the Lego specials
Oh
and
yeah.
that dropped over the years, like especially Lego Star Wars Freemaker Adventures and Lego Star Wars All Stars, because those two happened roughly around the same time as Rebels, but a lot of people didn't pay much attention to them because they're Lego. And so in essence they weren't canon, quote unquote, but they are what they describe as canon adjacent. So they touch on things that happened in the movies and expand on the world of Star Wars through new characters and stories. And I was they, if I remember correctly, they were made by Wilfilm, which is a production studio, and Lucasfilm Animation and Lego Group and the Lego Group. So I highly, if you're listening to this, I highly recommend watching them because they're just as important as Rebels and Clone Wars and Resistance, of course, because they give you a different point of view of the canon and just the overall approach to the Force. They're just so much fun.
Yeah. Did you watch the holiday special?
Oh my God, I'm so disappointed with myself. But I also told myself that I wanted to wait for like Christmas morning to watch
Okay.
it. So I haven't watched it, but I definitely will. And I'm excited to.
Yeah, I watched it like 2 days ago. I thought it was super cute and super funny.
Ah, cute.
So because I hadn't I that one, the Legos I haven't watched as much. So like
Hmm.
I remember watching when Rebels came out, the first one that came out, and I was like, okay, but I don't have like that vivid memory of it.
Got it.
Because every time I think Legos, I think of all my kids and everything is awesome. And they were driving me insane when that song came out. I was like, oh my God, you guys need to stop. Let's watch
that
something
song
else.
is that song is both a blessing and a curse.
Exactly. I was like, come on, we gotta do something else. But yeah, I was so sad when Rebels ended, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, they left it a cliffhanger, so I really want my Rebels sequel, but what's gonna happen? And then we got Resistance. What did you
Resistance.
think about Resistance?
I love Resistance. So it's one of those shows where it's one of those things where when something is so quote unquote hated or people say mean things about something, I immediately gravitate towards it and I defend it with all my might. Because I'm like, no, Star Wars Resistance is a good series because of this and this and that. But yeah, it introduced so many amazing characters, new characters that it was just such a refreshing breath of air because you have Yeager, who's an older black man. You have what's it? Tam, who's this younger black woman, and it was just so wonderful to see that happening in Star Wars because you rarely see it anywhere else
Yeah.
in Star Wars. I mean, so it's just like, man, that's awesome, and I really love the diversity in that show and how they were just willing to just be fun and funny and and expand on the sequels and what was going on at that time. I wish it could have been given another 2 seasons to really like get to the level that Star Wars the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels were at in seasons 3 and 4. Like I know the series could have gone there, but I really enjoyed it, and it's one of those things I think back on and I thought, wow, I can't believe they did that. That was really good.
Yeah, I thought the same, and I remember talking to some of my friends, and I was like, no, but I really like it. And it was just like that. It was something that if I wanted to take my mind out of anything negative happening, it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
But then you have like, I love Yeager. I thought, like, I was like, whoa, that's a character I want to know even more, because he came from such a difficult background, and everything that happened to him. And then you have which I'm blanking on the name, Miku.
Bora?
No, the alien
Niku?
looking, yeah,
Niku?
Niku, right? I For me, so I work with kids with autism,
Oh.
right? And I have a kid that said, oh, he looks like me and talks like me. And that broke my
Oh.
heart, because I was like, I don't think they did that like exactly like he had some kind of disability, but it's just like his blunt, like his personality. I was able to interact with that with so many kids. So for me, that show means that, like, I was like, oh, let's watch something funny, and then the droids are a little bit more funny, so I used it in that sense. So for me, it was
Yeah.
like something different, and it was something refreshing. And then seeing it tied into like the newer movies was just so cool. So I was like, yeah, I wish they would have had 2 more seasons, because I feel like that would have put that show a little bit higher than it was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such a refreshing take, and I love cars, so I love the ships kind of
Oh,
racing.
I
I
loved
was
it.
like, oh, that is so cool. And it really was something different. So I was like, stop. The thing with nowadays is that with social media, with everything being at reach, people like don't wait and like start attacking without even like, I feel like some
Yeah.
people need to rewatch the episode again before talking.
Yeah.
Like,
I know,
stop.
I certainly do. I certainly do, because I remember, because my mom and I talked about that show during our podcast, and especially during the second season, like one of those starting maybe like episode 3 to like episode 8, I want to say, I was very like um oh, I don't want to say harsh, maybe I was, but I was very like on top of it, where I was just, why can't they do it this way, why couldn't they do it that way? Because I saw so much potential in the way that the series was progressing, where I thought, man, why are they focusing on this? They should have focused on that. And still, I know they said that they went into the series with just 2 seasons in mind, but I still can't help but feel that they had more expectations, like more of a story laid out past that second season. Maybe that's just me wanting, desiring more, but it felt like all of those little episodes that generally didn't have much to do with the bigger plot would have been okay had there been like a season 3 or season 4. But because I knew the season 2 finale was going to be it, I was just like, man, where is this episode going? Why is this episode needed? And I wish I could go back and like reprimand myself, because sometimes Star Wars just likes to explore that everyday of whatever is happening, of that character. And so I should really go into things not expecting, and I think that's something that all fans should do. They should go into something not expecting, because if you go in with expectations, you're just going to disappoint yourself. So, and that's what I did that for a majority of the second season. So I wish I could take it back, but I've definitely learned my lesson.
Yeah, Resistance was like, for me, sometimes it looked like a reality show of Star Wars. Like,
Oh
we see
yeah,
this,
yeah.
okay, I see what you're doing. But yeah, it was different because we got so spoiled with Clone Wars and Rebels that Resistance was so different. And yeah, like you mentioned, I felt the same way, because I'm like, I want more. I want the roller coaster episodes, and it was like not exactly that, but they did such cool characters, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna love it for what it is, and that's it.
Yeah, you have to love it for what it is. Exactly.
Yeah, because I always think like that's a lot of work from people, like not only, let's say, even Clone Wars, not only Filoni, but there's such a crew involved in the show, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know how to do any of it. So
Yeah.
I need to be just grateful that I'm able to watch it. And if I don't like one episode, that's okay. It's not for everyone, one exactly episode, but at the end of the day, it's such it's a different path of animation, that it's something that I love from Lucasfilm, that they're always trying to like, okay, let's see where can we go
Next,
with
yeah.
animation and to explore different stories and different characters that are not going to be the same characters that we see from the movie. That's what I love.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing I love that Resistance gave us was the Doza family, because they're space Latinos and I
Yeah.
love it.
I love that.
So good.
Yeah, that was, and even then we get the news that, you know, we have the unfinished, we have the Clone Wars coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was incredible seeing, because I wasn't able to go to Star Wars Celebration Chicago, but I was watching a live stream and seeing Ahsoka back. And then we get the same thing with like Ahsoka's arc, and people were like, why? Because, you know, it's only like 8 or 6 episodes, so that's why they're like. But I was like, excuse me, there's some Latinas in here, and
Yeah.
like I need all of this episode, because we need more Latinas in Star
Yeah,
Wars.
exactly. Yeah, and I remember fans feeling that the same way I felt about Resistance in those few episodes was the same way people were feeling about in the Rafa and Trace arc, where it's like, well, we only have this amount of episodes left. Why are we seeing these people? What good are they? I'm like, well, they're expanding Ahsoka's story. They're helping her see how they see the Jedi, and this is what puts her on the path of not wanting to be a Jedi. I mean,
Yeah.
it's important. It's important. So yeah, and again, not going in with expectations will benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, because people, it's crazy because with Ahsoka's journey, we see her in the future with Rebels, but people are like, okay, we need to understand why Ahsoka took another path. And Rafa and Trace did an awesome job kind of showing her what the Jedi were seen as in an outside world. So for me, those were amazing episodes. And then bringing back the Mandalorian siege, and seeing how the animation was evolving to the point where I love that scene where Ahsoka's in front of Maul and the glass breaks all around, like, as goosebumps. I was just like, okay, I need more of this. Like, why is it only a couple episodes?
It's so good. Like the one thing I say should have happened in those in that final season, I wish there would have been 4 more episodes for Maul's story, for them to take that comic book series that they had launched way back, the Dathomir, Son of Dathomir series. I wish they had made that into the series, because you have the first arc that fleshes out Rex, you have the second arc that fleshes out Ahsoka, and then it jumps into Siege of Mandalore. So I wish that that imaginary third arc would have explored Maul, so that way you see Rex, Ahsoka, and Maul play a huge role in the Siege of Mandalore arc, and that would have been fantastic. I think that would have been like an A+ for me for that. But I mean, it was a great finale of final episodes for the show, but I wish those 4 additional Maul episodes would have been there to like flesh out his story and how he's in this part of the story.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like we're missing that ending of Maul, because we got the ending of everyone, and even that ending of the clones and Rex.
Oh,
and the fact that you had a clone trooper crying, that's something that I'm like, it breaks my heart all the time. And it's cool that we were able to catch him up in Rebels, even though I wanted him a little bit more fit, because I was like, I love Rex.
I love my big bodied Rex in Rebels. I'm like, still handsome.
Yeah, he is. I was like, you know what? I don't care. He was, he was just so awesome. And even that hug with Ahsoka and Rex in Rebels, those little things. It's just like, they make those connections so good, because they kept the story. And I don't know what's gonna happen with the Ahsoka series, but I hope that we can see Rex in there.
That would be nice.
Because Tamara Morrison can do Rex. Like, I'm just saying, like, he can do Rex.
Yes.
That would be pretty cool. But I know you had some kind of worry about doing the animation to live, but how are just like final thoughts about what are you expecting from like the animation to a live action in Ahsoka?
Right. For the Ahsoka series, I would hope that they, because this is the Ahsoka episode that we saw in The Mandalorian. I know a lot of people loved it. But I still had my reservations and I still had my concerns, especially in the way that she was portrayed. I completely understand that it was done because of
The
the fighting,
movement.
yeah, of the fighting sequences. Like her
Mhm.
montrals were short, but her montrals are such an essential aspect of her character. Like you see it in the merchandise for her universe. You see the blue stripes and the white stripes. So it's like it's an important feature, and it tells how old she is based on how long they are. So I really hope that going into that series they reconsider and add, um I know it's expensive, but Disney's on your side here, so here's hoping they give them a big budget, but add little CG dots or something to the Leku and make them CG in the end, like especially in the fighting, because it was so distracting to see the Leku as they were in the show that it took me completely out. It didn't feel like Ahsoka to me. It visually didn't feel like Ahsoka to me. And in addition, I think Rosario, as much research as she did, it didn't sound like Ahsoka to me in terms of how she was speaking. So I hope they would bring back Ashley to not just be in it, but like to consult. Like, here, talk with the person who contributed to Ahsoka for the past 10 years, 10 plus years. Like this person has Ahsoka's mind in her head. Talk with
Yeah.
her. Study her how she speaks and how she approaches things. Because I feel like it would lower my concerns going into that series personally.
Yeah, no, and I understand. And that's a pretty good point. Like just putting the dots for the CGI. Because
Yeah, like
I,
I'm sure there are things that they can do. It's just that they probably didn't do them because this was just the one episode. But I hope for the series, the actual series itself, they actually reconsider and add some techniques that would require CG, because it's sorely needed, I think.
yeah, and especially because like when I thought about Ahsoka coming back to the live show, it was me thinking of the last moment we saw her in Rebels and her looking like Ahsoka the Wise, and in
Yeah.
her white outfit and her staff. And I was just like expecting that Ahsoka. And then, yeah, like I said, I know because I've done like lightsaber choreography that it really sucks having something because I put like an Ahsoka headpiece and it would get in my way.
Yeah.
But I don't have the budget as Disney does. So
It's like
I'm
I
hoping,
know they can do it.
yeah, I'm hoping there's a way. And if you find the way to make it, like, let me know. But yeah, and because, yeah. And another Rebel sequel animated would be awesome.
Oh yeah, like I had mentioned earlier in the show, like I would like to see Sabine and Ezra. However, because in my see, this is the thing that I have to not go into the Ahsoka series with expectations, because right now I'm like, oh, they're probably going to explore her story, how she becomes Ahsoka, the Gandalf version of Ahsoka. But who knows? It might not. It might not. It might be something completely different. But if it is going in that direction, sure, I would like to see Sabine and Ezra in live action form. But I hope that it's not telling their story in the Ahsoka series, because it's strange to have the Ahsoka series named Ahsoka, and then and here's Sabine and Ezra on the side. Like, that's odd to me. Like, Sabine and Ezra are huge characters on their own. So if there is to be a Rebel sequel, I would hope that the title is more general and more captures that, rather than it just be Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Because then it's not really, you're completely disregarding Sabine and Ezra. They're not chopped liver here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would hope that this series, if we do see those characters, sure, I'm all for it. because I like to see that being acknowledged in a live action setting. But I hope that the actual story, the fleshed out part, is in animation. It's in animated form, because how cool would it be? And this is another thing that I wish they would do. But I'm a huge fan of the Witcher series, and the first
Okay.
season of The Witcher. Hopefully, this is not a spoiler for you guys, but it goes back and forth between timelines.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see an animation, an animated series where you have Ahsoka and Sabine who are searching for Ezra, and at the same time there are things that take us back in time to what we see with Ezra and Thrawn. So give it
That
to
would
me,
be
Lucasfilm. You know
that
you
would
can
be
do it.
perfect. And even use the world between worlds to kind of like, catching up to what
Oh,
Ezra
yeah,
is doing.
maybe, yeah.
Because that I thought the same thing. I'm like, okay, I love Ahsoka. I want her series, but I don't want it to become, like you said, Ezra on the side.
Yeah.
I thought they did great with having Ahsoka's story in Rebels, kind of like because she was essential.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that it's best that we do like a Rebel sequel and kind of like, because Ezra's character still has so much more to give. So we need just the focus on him. I don't want it to be another focus or like just a side story or just getting to
Exactly.
him and we only see him like 5 seconds. Like, no, we need all of Ezra.
Exactly. Like, I need this story to be told in great detail, please,
Yeah.
and thank you.
Now, if you would have Ezra in the live, let's see if they show him for like a couple seconds, but not his story, who would you say to portray him?
Oh, that's a great question. I know Rahul Kohli
Yeah.
has been
Trolling
championing
us.
himself, yeah, championing himself to become Ezra. And to be honest, at first I was like, I don't know about this. But then the more that he talked, the more I thought, oh my God, that's such an Ezra thing to say. Just give him the role, just give him the part. Because
Listen.
there are things that he says and does where I'm just like, oh, that's so Ezra.
Yes.
And so I would love that. I would also love, just because he's played the street rat sort of role, but Mena Massoud, who did Aladdin in the live
Oh,
action Aladdin,
yes.
I love the idea of him being Ezra too. It's just so cute in my head. And I mean, I would go for Taylor Gray as well. I know some people would be very happy to see Tia and Taylor play their characters. If they somehow manage to pull that off, sure. But I'm all for new people coming in to give us their interpretations. And I know I should be more accepting of Rosario's interpretation of Ahsoka, but for some reason I just can't. I need a little bit more work out of it. I don't hear Ahsoka. So maybe that's how I might feel when I see Ezra or Sabine in live action. I'm like, I don't see Sabine and Ezra. But I have to give it a chance and see how they make it happen. So we'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully now that they have more time, because we don't have a set date in mind, they can work the
Yeah.
little because it's like almost there. It's just that we're so used to, and probably it's you and I rewatch Clone Wars and Rebels all the time that it's like it comes naturally. You're just like, oh, Ahsoka, Ashley, that it's harder to kind of get used to like a new person doing Ahsoka. But I hope that this is not the end for animation, like of the Rebel sequel. I hope we get more.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just there's
I mean, we
so
have the
much.
Bad Batch, so I'm excited about that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we saw Fennec Shaw, and I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, that's so awesome that this is the first time we have the opposite. Like, with one character that we've seen especially in Mandalorian and now
Yeah.
coming to Bad Batch, because again, I love the trooper stories, and there's still so much. And
Yeah.
maybe Rex comes out somehow, or like showing us what he's doing all over the world. um
That would be
yeah.
cool. I can totally see them doing that. So here's hoping, because I would scream. But yeah, hopefully there's more animation after that, because I know in the big investor day that they had recently, they mentioned that they had 10 series, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot. But then they started announcing things, and I thought, oh my god, where's the animation besides the Bad Batch?
Yeah.
So I hope that they continue, because like I said, animation is a big part of why I love Star Wars. So the more animation we get, especially with that new droid show, which is it's going to be really cute, the anime show. So here's hoping that opens up the doors to more content, because I love my Star Wars animation. I can't live without it.
Yeah, same here. But I mean, we talked about all the animation in
We did.
Star Wars, and it was awesome. And thank you again, Jonna, for doing this with me. And for our listeners, where can they find you in the interwebs?
Yeah, I'm happy to have done this. It was a lot of fun. So your listeners can find me on Twitter with the handle @BlueJakeEyes, and that's blue, the color blue. Jake is JAIG, and then the word eyes. And what else? They can also find me on, I usually write on my website, radicalgrid.com. Hopefully I'll put something up soon, because it's been a while. But I also talk about Star Wars, specifically Star Wars animation, with my mom on the Geeky Bubble Pod. So hopefully we'll start talking about stuff soon, with the Bad Batch on the horizon.
Yes, check it out. Jonah and her mom are awesome. I love listening to your podcast, and you guys have an awesome relationship, and it's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you.
But thank you so much, Jonah, and I hope everybody keeps staying safe and have an awesome day. May the force be with you.